Elon Musk said those who control the memes control the world.
Yep.
And Luca says those who control the GIFs control the memes who control the world. Right. I think GIFs are probably the most accessible medium of memes that exist. And if we can own the GIFs, we can own the memes. And if we own the memes, we own the world.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Andrew Ask How podcast. Muffled that. Person on today is redefining what culture means on the blockchain. I don't think he needs an introduction past that. Luca from Pudgy Penguins. How are you doing?
Andrew, happy to be here and with my fellow Pengu.
Luca, off the bat, really quickly, we can get rid of all the the friendship stuff out of the way here. I do want to ask, what are most brands doing wrong in the NFT space, and how is Pudgy getting it right?
They're treating conversion like an action rather than a process. And so I think a lot of people in the NFT space are trying to immediately convert users into their ecosystem, when in reality, conversion and getting people into your ecosystem is not a one moment thing. It's a year or multi-year long process. I think that's just kind of the way that we built this thing. It's just how can you fulfill the desire that you think most crypto people are kind of optimizing and looking for, and how can we be the brand that ultimately stands out amongst the rest and fulfills its expectation? I think that would probably be the easiest answer that I could give you.
Now, how did you guys get past the year and a half of conversion? How did you guys set yourself up for success? I think a lot of teams are struggling with doing this.
I think fulfilling expectations, I think is really important. Setting expectations and then fulfilling them in a timely manner, I think would probably be one of the most important parts. Secondly, probably building trust. I don't think we've done anything that has earned us or has given the community the right not to trust us. I think everything that we've done has actually been to the contrary. I think everything that we've done has given the community a reason to trust us. And then I think probably last but not least is being able to garner attention, hit those headlines, and get the whole space talking about us.
Now, with the expectations, how did you guys manage those appropriately? Because oftentimes they are thrown out of proportion. I
think just understanding what it is to be a community member and understanding, I think, previous teams' frustrations. I think on one side of the spectrum, we execute really fast and we execute really well. And so, whenever we say something, I think those inner igloos are huge. Yep. That first week in the Discord was huge, where we basically just talked about what we're going to do and how we were going to do it. And then just kind of being the outlier amongst the rest, I think, was probably pretty important as well. And so I think probably those three things, and above else, just probably just communication and relationship building. I'm pretty accessible. And if there's a problem, I won't just ignore the problem. I'll tackle it head on. I'll message the person directly. Yep. We'll talk about it live on an Inner Igloo or on a Spaces. And just trying to be as fair and as human and as compassionate and empathetic as possible.
It's a good take. You are super accessible, which is great for the ecosystem as well as the wider, Web3 industry. Look, I do want to ask as well, what do you think you are most known for in our industry, up to date, as in today? And then what do you want to be known for in, let's say, a few years from now?
I think today I'm probably known for being the penguin guy. And if you look under the hood, maybe a little bit deeper, probably a really good operator and marketer and leader. Probably be I would hope probably the general assumption. I think where I want to go is I ultimately want to be a pioneer here, and I want to be on the Mount Rushmore of Web3. I think that's my end goal.
And I will ask as well, what do you want people to know about you that they already don't? I'm sure it's not a long list.
I'm just a huge music guy. I love music so much, and I've got a really diverse taste in music.
Okay, I didn't see that one coming. I'll be honest, I didn't see that one coming. I will ask, Luca, how does the 18 billion GIPHYs at this point right now, how does that affect the Pudgy brand? What does that do for the brand?
I think it's a couple of things. One, we use a lot of penguin holders get penguins in there, and so it kind of brings their penguin to life and gives them a way to communicate with other people, leveraging these GIFs. Two, it just creates a really deep and robust touch point. And so the idea is, if you're familiar with Pudgy Penguins, you've probably seen a Pudgy Penguin GIF out in the wild. Yep. And that, I think, piques your curiosity. And then third, I think it's just a great way to proliferate the penguin. I think GIPHY is probably the most underutilized, tool for impressions in the entire world. And it's one that I think also leans into the mimetic culture, which I think crypto is so passionate about. Elon Musk said those who control the memes control the world.
Yep.
And Luca says those who control the GIFs control the memes who control the world, right? I think GIFs are probably the most accessible medium of memes that exist. And if we can own the GIFs, we can own the memes. And if we own the memes, we own the world.
And to some extent, you guys obviously did lap Star Wars and some of these other massive, brands on GIPHY. Do you think, Luca, that has a massive impact on the current Penguin brand today, or do you think it's too early to tell?
I totally think it has a massive impact today, but I think it's not necessarily about what's going to happen today, but what's going to happen over the course of the next 5 years. I mean, if we continue this pace on GIPHY, which is really 4 or 5% growth month over month, and we continue the output and even scale it up, we will be the number one, GIF in the world, and probably the most familiar GIF character in the world. And study some of the IPs that have been incubated in Asia, specifically Line Friends. I mean, they've built $1 billion IP because of their GIFs and stickers on their messaging app, right? And so, this is not I think a lot of people might look at this like a farce or something that's pretty hollow, and maybe on its face it is. But if you can actually dominate it, I think it's a huge lever. And, at the end of the day, crypto values a lot of things. In the NFT world, they value mimetic culture and being an internet icon. And I think on its current trajectory, if Pudgy Penguins does nothing else, and we just continue the consistent output on GIFs and on socials, our path to being an internet icon is pretty much cemented, in my opinion.
So one of the names and brands you guys lapped was Star Wars, as I said. And Luca, if we had to take a poll or a test size of, let's say, 1,000 people, easy numbers in the public, in the wild, as you say, do you think more people would know Star Wars or more people know Pudgy Penguins? And do you think that the fact you guys lapped them in GIPHYs 3 times over, do you think that has a stronger brand dominance if you took that test size?
Not even close. Star Wars has a way bigger brand than Pudgy Penguins, and there is there's no comparison today. And I'm fine saying that, right? We've been building this brand for 2 years. Yep. I'm not going to pretend, even in the toy aisle, there's some places where Pudgy Penguin toys do not sell at all. And I knew that, right? I really was testing regions and figuring out where the toys sold and where we found success. Pudgy, Star Wars toys sell everywhere they go. Yep. It's a brand with 6 movies. I mean, 9 movies if you count, the rest of the franchise series. Endless decades of nostalgia and growth. So we're not even comparable there at the moment. But that's fine. And I know that, right? So I think Star Wars got us beat in that respect from a long shot. But what I think the current metrics say is that we're on a current path that if we continue this pace and we continue this growth and we tell a really good story and we really elevate our product experience, that one day we will be in that realm. And I think that's really exciting.
It definitely is exciting as well. Luca, do you think, last thing on the GIPHY topic here, do you think if you guys said, let's say 100 billion GIPHYs by, let's say, I don't know, in 2027, whatever it is, do you think that number would constitute and convert to more brand dominance than Star Wars as a whole, or no?
I think if we had more meat to the bone in other parts of our ecosystem, it could play a huge role. And it could be, right? I think GIPHY is a good secondary or tertiary, touch point and impression point, but it can't be the primary. And so right now it is a great place for us, but we need to have a breakthrough movie or TV show or game or something that I think is just really, when it comes to making a franchise, something that's very traditional in terms of the franchise lens, we need to be able to pull off one of those. And then when we pull off one of those with the support of things like GIPHY and socials and products, then I think we can be in that conversation.
That's a good take. And Luke, I do want to ask as well, on the Web2 consumer side, are there any current fall off points in terms of the Pudgy consumer journey?
Yeah, I mean, the elephant in the room is Pudgy world is pretty mediocre today. Not pretending that it's not. And so I think, the ultimate experience for Pudgy toys is being able to scan the QR code, put 3 to 5 traits on your penguin, and then go play with your friends with that penguin in an open world game. Right now, we have everything except for the open world game, which is really the kicker. And so that's definitely a drop off point. And I think, there's probably a couple others. Maybe if you want to elaborate on what you think a drop off point is, but I think Pudgy world would probably be one.
Yeah, you mentioned publicly before that the conversion rate from the signups and the purchase of the toys wasn't high enough of a conversion rate. That's kind of what I was alluding to.
Oh, the card sucks. So like, that was also another thing. Like we kind of looked at Pudgy World as like a little cherry on top, not really a core feature. What I think it's become and what I think has shown signs of is that it can become a core feature.
Yep.
But the QR code is just so atrociously bad. It needs to be a lot better.
Do you think if Pudgy World was further along, that would help the sign-up rate, or the sign-up rate begins with the QRs?
And it begins with the card. And obviously, if Pudgy World had some momentum, people would be buying the toys for that. Right now, people are not buying the toys to unlock Pudgy World trades.
Yeah.
They're buying the toys because they either love Pudgy Penguins, the brand, or they love Penguins.
I wonder if you have this data set, and I don't know if you do, but it'd be great if you did, or if you do rather. What percentage of people that have purchased a toy outside of our industry actually know that there's a QR there?
It's about 10 to, I don't know outside of our industry, but I can tell you like the general conversion is between 10 and 15%. So call it 12.
Okay. And what's a good conversion rate for you? 25 plus, 30 plus, 40?
Yeah, at least 30. And I easily think we can get there. Right? Like if the packaging communicated QR code and like really pointed people in that direction with a really sexy QR code, you could totally get there.
Do you think you would ever include like, I guess like, how can I call this? Injections of a QR code through the actual, Instagram kind of funnel? Like maybe graphic, maybe hinting at it, something like that? Or how would you kind of go about running that quote unquote reactivation campaign?
Totally. The problem is I think like we have so much bigger to grow. Yeah. And I want to activate those things with the wins of an NFT bull market in our sales. Right. Mm-hmm. Like I think one of the beautiful parts is like when NFTs take off again, the same way that we saw it in 2021, everyone's talking about it. It's headlines everywhere. Normies are inquiring about it. Like being able to turn on that Pudgy Penguin machine through our socials and just telling people like, hey, by the way, if you didn't know, we're the top and biggest, best NFT project in the world. Like that could be really exciting. And that's what I'm waiting for. I don't want to try to convert that audience without the help of macro conditions in our favor.
It's a good take. Luca, I have a stupid question. Do you guys ever take any surveys on the Instagram feed?
We have in the past. And then we also do some things with our text messages. There's like a number that you can text to kind of get positive affirmations. And then I'll also like ask for certain replies if they like certain things. But probably could be a little more data oriented. Yeah. Again, like I think like the thing is I just think we know what we're doing at this point. And I know that there's still like, we need to, there's a lot of things that we just naturally just need to do better before I start trying to refine the really micro details. Like I'm not in micro detail refinement mode. Yeah. I'm still in like, let's build out the core features that need to be built out. So like, cause those are priority.
And I have another stupid question. Why Target and GameStop? Like no take on my side. I'm just curious why those two locations of distribution.
Yeah, so I think Target's an obvious one. Obviously a really affluent base that kind of goes and shops at Target. I really think we can be a long-term customer and a long-term brand within that ecosystem. And I like specifically where they place us in the collectible aisle. Yeah. I think it really gives like a lot of a high-end provenance to an audience that I think will come and collect NFTs when the NFT bull market is back. And then GameStop was honestly, as ironic as it was, the story about GameStop is I had that tweet drafted in our tweets for weeks. And to us, it was like kind of like a nothing burger. It's like one of those announcements, like we didn't really want to announce it. But the reason why I wanted to go into GameStop was specifically around the GME craze. Yeah. And I thought for Pudgy World, it might be a good fit. And then it just happened that Roaring Kitty comes back. And I was like, great. An announcement that like I don't really want to lean on, but I do want to announce it because I do want to bring some momentum to GameStop. Like it just was the perfect cultural fit. And I think when you're thinking about like there's a segment of Pudgy Penguin holders and Pudgy community members that really come from the deep CT side, and that Pengu prophecy and the Pengu lore and the whole like ties between Pengu and its ability to lean into the GME and the Doge and like that little ethos was like really what I was trying to tap into there. And it just happened. We timed it perfectly with, I was able to just go in the drafts and Lorenzo was like, dude, why didn't we tweet this? And I was like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. You're totally right. This is the whole reason why we're even here in the first place. Crack the tweet and
it looked good. Honestly, on the timeline in terms of order of tweets, whatever we call it now, it looked good. Like optics wise, it looked great. And I think sometimes optics, does matter as well. I think there is some substance there as well. Luca, you guys being in GameStop, is it pairing of IP play for you guys? Like Pudgy World, GameStop, game, is it pairing IP?
Yep.
And I'll ask, do you think with the pairing IP and the pairing of the quote unquote the brand with Pudgy World, the Penguin, as well as GameStop, do you think that a lot of the attraction of Pudgy World has actually come from GameStop opposed to, let's say, Target or let's say Walmart?
I would hope, but again, like Pudgy World just took way longer than we thought, and it's still not done, right? So like, Pudgy World isn't even a value proposition and isn't really a thought until I know it's ready to go live.
Yeah.
We had ambitious goals for gaming. We wanted to be quick and execute fast. And then everyone was comparing, Pudgy World to other side. And I was like, one's a $2 million build and, one's $500 million build, right?
And now they're
but they were doing it anyway. And that's what happens when you become a leader in the space. So then I just thought to myself, I was like, look, you're shipping a half-assed product just because we said we would and we could, doesn't mean we should. And now that people are comparing us to other side for some reason, you now got to go build something special.
It almost might be a good thing in hindsight. We'll see in a few years. I do want to touch upon kind of the Web 2 side. You're obviously in touch with those quote unquote consumers, those Pengu, fanatics as well. Luca, what do they think and know about the Penguin versus what we think and know? And who would you say is quote unquote more in love with the Penguin IP on a scale from 0 to 10 in terms of the love spectrum? We'll call it that.
Yeah. Holders are always going to be the most in love because they're financially incentivized to do it. So like, you know what I mean? Like there's just a different type of love when you've got an opportunity to potentially have something that could be super impactful in your life as an asset and as a digital collectible. So in that respect, like that's an unbeatable community. And again, one of the reasons why I think we're here today. But I was actually, go through the Pudgy Penguin comments on Instagram and just see like we actually have a really passionate Web2 community. And it's a group that knows really nothing about the NFT. And again, for good reason, like you don't really want them to at this moment in time, but they are passionate and they are fervent. And don't underestimate how many people just love penguins and that we are slowly but surely becoming the face of penguins around the world.
I would agree with that as well. I take a look at it once in a while. It does look very, very attractive as well. And, Luca, what happened when you said this on an Igloo space, but I want to kind of bring it to light now. I think you said 3 weeks ago-ish, you mentioned that you guys had named the Penguins and the Web 2 side wasn't happy. And it was, let's say, a mishap.
Yeah, so we basically right now the Pudgy Penguins on Instagram are Pax and Polly, the blue and the pink. We changed them to Pudgy and Peaches. And so Pax, who's the blue one, kind of looked the same, looked like he had an outfit. And it looked like Pax just got a new girlfriend and just totally cheated on Polly, replaced Polly with Peaches. And our Web 2 community was not having it. It just seemed like an animatic affair that was going on in real time where Pudgy was just cheating left and right with all of these different girls. And they just weren't rocking with it. The engagement was down. The comments were rioting. And we were like, okay, like rather than trying to convince them that this is the way, they're clearly objecting, so let's fix it. And we just brought it back. And now we kind of like frame the Pudgy universe as follows. Like in Pudgy Penguins is like Star Wars. Star Wars has a ton of different stories within Star Wars, but the basic principle is the same. You're still in the galaxy. There's the Sith and then the Republic and there's the Jedi. There's the fight between good and evil. There's still the same planets, right? But there's different storylines throughout all of these. And so Pudgy Penguins is the same. You have Pax and Polly. You have some of the stories that different community members are making. You have Pudgy and Peaches. And so like, all of these different, people kind of fall in the same world. The planet is the same planet. The antagonist is the same antagonist. But it actually, I think, it turned out to be a lot better this way because, when you're working with something where community members have the right to build on top of their IP, boxing them into like a main character and like this is it is probably not a good box to do because then you kind of become a little corpo. And so I think kind of this positioning actually turned out to be the best positioning, which is like we have Pudgy Penguins. The story of Pudgy World will be told by Pudgy and Peaches. The story of like, some of our mass and our consumer stuff will be told by Pax and Polly and the rest of the community. And the rest of the community can build on top of the lore with other things that I think can kind of help.
Look, I have a weird question. Do you think that the Web 2 side of things knows the team behind Pudgy Penguins, or they just know the penguin and that's the way you want it to be?
They don't know the team. That's the way that I want it to be. I mean, this is not an Elon Musk Tesla situation just yet.
Okay.
I think what I want them to do is I want them to fall in love with the penguin. And I think the more people I can get to fall in love with the penguin, the better. You know, right now, Web3, there's plenty of people who love the penguin, but also love me. And like, you know, that's great. But I think at the end of the day, like how to build a true enterprise and something that I think can stand the test of time, it can't be dependent on any one man. And so like, or any one team or group of people. And so, you know, I want the group in the Web2 world to just fall in love with the penguin as much as possible. And as little they know about me, the better.
That's a good take. Yeah, because if Elon left Tesla tomorrow, you'd agree that the stock would probably dump.
Totally.
Yeah.
50%.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And that's a crypto dump. I agree with that as well. Luca, like this is a foresight question too. How do you guys plan on introducing yourselves to that Web2 community when the time is right? Because I think you only get one shot at doing this, and you probably haven't thought about it now, which is totally cool. But I'm just curious.
I haven't really thought about it. I mean, obviously, I show up to San Diego Comic-Con and licensing expo. I don't know. Hopefully, we probably introduce ourselves the second we start converting them into Web3. Right, like that's probably when that transition happens. Like again, but that is done with the wind of Web2 craziness kind of happening.
Yeah, and I'll ask this question too, and this is a little bit of a tougher one. I think most teams struggle with answering this. But Luca, how do you know that people from Web2 are converting to Web3? What data pairing can you use and say, Andrew, these two sets of data combined into one says that this event is happening? What would that be for you guys personally?
Yeah, the people totally misalign this strategy and totally actually misinterpret really the goal here. The goal is to hit mass. And then when mass is digesting and consuming these products and these pieces of content, they are now interacting with people who are in crypto, who are in Web3, who do have purchasing power for NFTs, and then converting them to become holders of the NFT. For example, Guy recently actually swept 50 little pudgies and 3 big pudgies. He like made a whole tweet about it. It was pretty cool. And the whole origin of the story was because he was at Time Zone in Singapore and he saw Pudgy Penguins in the arcade machines. And he was like, oh, this is pretty obvious, right? Like I've never seen a crypto product or a brand do this. And like, this is a sign, this is right in front of my face, right? Or somebody is texting their mom, you know, some big crypto punk whale has also happened. And he's like, my mom sent me a Pudgy Penguin gift. I got to buy a couple of these things. They're clearly doing something right. Right. So it's not necessarily about like, again, bringing people in. That will happen when the winds of the bull market are going to come. But if I try to force people in, I will lose my Web2 audience. They'll get turned off. Humans are FOMO driven beings, right? Like they don't want to go against the grain. They're not contrarians. We're not natural contrarians. We're natural followers. Right. So I want to teach our Web2 audience about NFTs when everyone wants to learn about NFTs. That's the way to do it. Until then, I want to penetrate mass so that everybody that's already here in crypto and NFTs, you're taking a left here, you're taking a right here, and you're seeing all of these different, you know, Pudgy Penguins everywhere across friends and family. At some point, you're almost like a bad investor and a bad trader if like you're not seeing what's clearly right in front of you, right? Which is like your favorite NFT project outside of Penguins is not seeing the same touch point. I think the last time we saw something akin to what we're doing was in the mid of the Bored Ape craze, right? Like Bored Apes was the only other project where like real people outside of the NFT and crypto ecosphere were participating in that IP and in that culture. And now Pudgy Penguins is like the new era of what Bored Ape was back in 2021.
And Luca, I will also ask as well, do you consider the toy industry to be kind of recession resistant? Because our industry, I think all the assets in our industry are not recession resistant. When a recession, quote unquote, happens, bear cycle, whatever you want to call it, do you think the toy industry and selling out toys is recession resistant? And how do you guys plan on tackling, you know, the next wave of this when the market kind of goes to shit inevitably for crypto?
Not necessarily. I think IP is traditionally recession resistant. Like think about it. If you get laid off from your job or if you're having a hard time, like where you're going to migrate to, you're going to migrate to like content and characters that make you feel good, whether in the physical or in the digital world. IP in general is actually a hedge for a majority of big funds. I was surprised to hear that like funds like BlackRock and Vanguard actually had exposure to IP for this very reason. But remember, like Pudgy Penguins is not a toy business. So like toys are obviously the things that are working, that are like low hanging fruit. The first thing that we were able to execute on, that we needed money, we needed to create sustainable revenue, and it's clearly working and it's succeeding right now. But like, if one day the toy business falls off a cliff, like, it wouldn't really worry me, because I know if it did, it would be because maybe we pivoted our focus somewhere else. And like, that new thing is now more exciting and in kind of a new era of kind of what we're doing. Obviously, it kind of maybe feels like it, because like, we're really leaning into the toys hard, and we've sold 1 million toys in just under a year, and kind of had huge milestones there, and it's proliferating and doing what I want to do above all else, which is proliferate the IP. So in that respect, like, we're leading into it. But you'll probably see a time here, and probably in the next 12 to 18 to 24 months, where like we pivot to like the next era of where I think Pudgy Penguins brand goes, which is like breaking into a franchise. That's kind of why we pursued Pudgy World, why we're pursuing some of these other big initiatives in the background. Like, the toys are not going to make you into a franchise. Like, maybe one or two or three companies in the entire world have become a franchise off of the toy line. And it's not a business. I don't like the toy business. I mean, it's not like I don't get super excited waking up in the morning and be like, we're selling toys, right? But it's a great way to create emotional attachment. It's a great way to proliferate, and it's a great way to onboard. And so for those reasons, we're leaning into it. But like, if our big announcements a year from now are still toys, I'm not doing my job.
That's interesting. That is interesting you said that. I have to dive deeper into this now. Luca, why would you say that? Why do you think if the announcements in a year from now are still based on toys, you're not doing your job? Why from the stuff that with what you can say, think that?
They'll probably still be there, obviously, right? I know there's still places we haven't been onboarded, but we got into the two hardest retailers to ever get into. Anybody who's been in retail knows Walmart and Target is the hardest, most competitive, piece of real estate they can kind of penetrate, especially in an aisle like the toy or the collectible aisle, where there's literally 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-old IPs that are dominating that shelf space. So I'm super proud about that. And obviously there'll still be a couple, but like, at the end of the day, we're not a toy company. And like, if you think we are, then you're gravely mistaken. And maybe that's because I'm giving you the inclination that we are. And so, again, like, this is the case of what we're doing today. But like if I'm still just like focusing, like, toys are now to me like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, now it's just really about controlling supply and demand, exclusivity, new SKUs. Obviously, there's things that we haven't broken through in Asia. And so, I still want you to hear about our toys a year from now, 2 years from now. But like, if all of our announcements for, the next 3 years or 2 years are all toys, like, I'm not doing my job. Like, I'm just not.
Yeah, I think it's a good take. I mean, Luca, obviously the success is you're definitely the face of IP, and I'm obviously really fucking heavy bias here. I don't really care. Obviously the face of IP within the Web3 industry, at least to me. And I think you probably believe that's, the answer.
I don't think you're biased. I think that's just a logical assessment. Yeah. I think anybody would argue the contrary is back bias. Yeah. Right. Because if you would argue any other brand, I'd be like, look, like, let's just be real. So I don't think you're being biased in this respect.
I appreciate that. Luca, I do want to mention, you guys sold 1 million units, and I'm curious, like, I can't find data on this, and I'm pissed off that I couldn't find it. In comparison to the 1 million units sold within the 12-month sprint you guys have been on through Walmart and through this distribution, what other cute IP brand has done the exact same thing within the first 12-month framework of their sprint of releasing, plushies, these types of things? If you have that information, it'd be awesome.
Possible to tell, and the only reason why is because we're in Web3, and I got to be transparent. Communicate. Web2, nobody's being transparent. No one gives a shit to tell anybody what they're doing. But I don't think many.
Because Squishmallows, is obviously, it's different, but it's still cute IP. They're doing fucking very well right now. I am super interested to know how they did 12 months ago, or like the first 12 months, and I couldn't find it, and it generally pissed me off. I was like, fuck, I couldn't find the comparison.
Squishmallow didn't really take off until about 5 years into the business. They'll tell you that. We actually knew that we know the founders or the persons who owned it before they got acquired very well.
And do you think you guys obviously have a greater curve than them currently right now, would you say, from an IP perspective?
Right. I think there's very few brands you can point to that have seen the success. I mean, I too would love to know, but like, who have you seen hit the metrics and the growth that Pudgy Penguins has in 12 months? I mean, you'd be really hard to find another brand that has seen this trajectory the same way that we have.
Luca, they will theoretically say that they have, but practicality they have not. Like the teams in our industry have very great theories, like they're great theorists, but like in practicality, being practical with actually doing the thing, they can't fucking do it the way you guys have done it. And this is once again, Andrew, you're biased, maybe not, but you know the numbers speak for themselves. Luca, I have to ask, otherwise they'll kill me. Penguin Summer. I want to open this up by starting off with this. You said before that, I think Peter said this too, that Pudgy Penguins is a Q4 brand. So being a Q4 brand doesn't start a little bit later on. Why Penguin Summer?
Well, I think just historically, if you just look at Penguins and where we've gotten momentum and where we've gotten hype, it really is from like June to like May to like the end of the year. It's always been like our history. We've always had like a lull in quarter two. It's just like, if you just look at the chart, you can kind of just see that. And I think from our side, it's just like what we have planned. So like elephant in the room is we had that big run up, January and February. Yeah. I knew I couldn't follow up that big of a run with anything that we had currently in the pipeline. So I took it to the team and I said, look, like there's no point to announce anything. Like, let's cook up our biggest sprint yet. And then when we come back from this hiatus, like, let's just completely take over. And so just to give you like an understanding of like how big I think Penguin Summer and honestly until the end of the year is going to be, like usually we end with something like Target, right? Like that would be like we build up to something like Target. We started with Target, right? We're going to hit you with some fillers in between there, like GameStop, things like that. Like obviously keep the eyeballs and keep the momentum, but we've cooked some shit. Like if by the end of the year we aren't, like I don't want to say, but if we aren't the clear number one, like the unequivocal clear number one, if everything doesn't reflect the fact that we're number one by the end of the year, I'd be pretty surprised.
And Luca, what metrics are you looking to have that reflective and floor price don't care about that? What other metrics?
Yeah, I think like one, community sentiment narrative around us. Like you talk to anybody, everyone speaks highly of Penguins. Yeah. There might be like some that like disagree, but like that's their own little like CT cult and like, they can do their thing. But like the truth of the matter is like, if you live in reality, like there's one winner and there's somebody who's clearly leading the charge and it's us. And I think that's reflective in views and impressions and revenue. I think any meaningful metric outside of floor price, I think we're winning. Like I would be surprised if there's an NFT project making more money than us, that's getting more impressions than us, that has a better sentiment and better narrative than us. I don't think you can find it. And this is not, again, people think I'm like putting other people down by doing that. I'm not. It's like, you would have asked me this a year ago, I wouldn't have told you this. Yeah. Right. It's like when you ask me about Star Wars, like I'm telling you, Star Wars, I'm not like insane, right? Yeah. Like Star Wars is clearly like way bigger than us. I like to live in a realm of reality, and just reality is telling me that this is where we are.
We mentioned Penguin Summer and the Q4 brand. Luca, do you think Pudgy Penguins, in terms of the execution part of things, will always be a Q4 brand, or is the goal to just be a brand that is dominant kind of year round based off of the strength of the IP?
Naturally, we want to be that. I think when Peter says that, I think it's just like obvious, like winter Penguins, like consumer products, it just fits in really well. And you have to understand like the ebb and flows of IP. Like there is no IP that is top of mind all the time for like years and years and years on end throughout all seasons. And so like I think for us to kind of like take that stairway to heaven, like you've got to have like dips and lulls and like and then high moments. And I think like we've just chosen like June to January as like really those times.
Luca, why do you think that happens? Like, why do you think the lull moments happen aside from the fragmentation of attention? Like, why? Like, is that just a crypto thing, or that's just?
I think it's just natural human fatigue and ADHD, and like this younger generation who's now like becoming older and older and becoming the primary consumer. Just like brains are being fried through like all these crazy algorithms. Like, you just can't like the obsessive behavior is changing. Like, people just have way more RAM in their brain to like just disperse like thought. And like, you just have to play that game. Like, I personally don't want to see the same thing on the timeline all the time. Yeah. It makes me like want to mute it. It makes me have fatigue. Like, I get over it. And so like, you definitely like, I kind of look at like a stairway to heaven, right? Like, you have our moments, you have our lulls, you have our moments, you have our lulls. And ultimately like that stairway goes where we want to be.
And Luca, you guys obviously building Pudgy World, not to get back to this, but obviously game. Do you think that Web3 games, Pudgy World, will be recession resistant in the near future? Is that kind of the idea here?
I think all of those things are right. So the beauty is like, when the bull market goes crazy, we'll see huge success. And then when the bear market happens, we'll have a tangible moat that pretty much nobody else has. So like, again, we're trying to make this the armor that is the Penguin as chink proof as possible. And right now I see no chinks in our armor.
Look, I do want to ask as well, and like obviously I'm on your side for literally everything, if not most things. And what is one thing? What is a win you've had you would like to get back to make it a bigger win? I'm just fucking curious because you like I like this about you. You do like kind of saying like, yeah, like we're gonna go do this thing, but we're gonna tell you we're gonna go do it before we actually go do it, and then you kind of like shove it to the culprits and the cedars, which is great. But what is one win you guys had that you wished you could do again and make it greater?
Walmart.
Why? And how?
we really rushed to the puck there. It was just Q4. I knew it. They hit us with the order. We could have done it. And it was just like, I really wanted to hit. I felt like we were outperforming everyone. We were just getting critically faded. And we didn't just have that monster headline just to put all the eyeballs on us. And I think we could have done that better. We could have done the toys better. We could have done the execution of the palette better. We could have done a lot of things better, and we just couldn't because of the time in which we did it. If I could do it again, I'd probably do Walmart again. But
you would constitute that as a success, yes?
Huge success. I mean, okay. It's a huge win. I mean, dude, I don't think there's a crypto announcement in general that got more impressions than Pudgy Penguins and Walmart last year. I think if you look at all the impressions, it was actually insane. It was the thing for an entire year, like for the entire 2023.
It was a thing that was constantly compared to. It was a constantly compared thing. It is literally what it was. And look, I do want to ask as well, like, what should people not do to piss you off to make you go more insane and more kind of in this? Because I see this all the time. Like sometimes you get a little bit like tweaked, but I like it because I'm like, he's gonna really kind of shove it to them now. What's that thing for you? What makes you tick?
Well, I'm a competitor, and so I just want to like preference this. Like I love all groups. I love all projects. Like at the end of the day, like when I close my laptop at night and when we're number one, like I'll do nothing but support everybody else.
Yeah.
But I think until then, like I really feel like we have a chip on our shoulder, and like I just still don't know how everybody in NFTs who can afford a penguin doesn't have one. It's like just it doesn't resonate with me as to like why that's the case, because it's so glaringly obvious that we're the best community with the best IP with the best group running it. It just is clear to me there, and I don't say that in an arrogant way. I say that because I think we really earned our spot, and we've really earned the fact to say that. And so I think like what ticks me is like PvP. Like I'll tell you this, like I won't lose my cool, and like I'm super conscious of this. But like you don't want to PvP with us, and we haven't gotten there with anybody. Because I think sometimes community members can do it, and I don't want to drag other teams into that because that's not their fault. But like if other team ever wants to PvP with us, I promise you it's the worst thing they could ever do. There's it will be Kendrick Drake style showdown, and we will finish that. And so like my only advice is like, look, community members from opposing communities can say what they want, but just know if you want to go to war with us directly. And anybody from and again, like we don't really punch down. So like there's only a couple projects that I think could really trigger us to this point. It's game over. Like, don't do it. Cause part of like our background and like our competitive mindset, like is yearning for that. Like I want somebody to go and try us like subconsciously, but in reality, like I also just want all of us to win. Right. So like in the same breath, like I want to be number one, and it's super important for me and my motivations and kind of why I get up every morning. But like at the end of the day, like let's the apes and penguins flip each other to 100 ETH. Like that's great. Like let's everybody make money. Let's everybody win. But like in the back of my mind, like I don't want to be the third or fourth, thing on the menu. Like I want to be number one. And I think anybody else with a different mindset is like kind of lame. Like why would you get up every morning and try to build a business just for somebody to outcompete you and outwin? But at the end of the day, like that doesn't mean I want these things to go to zero. I very much want all of these brands to go back. That's not the mindset. I want to beat you going up. I don't want to beat you going down. It just seems like a lame way to win. That's like winning the chip because somebody broke their ankle. You're like, dude, like, you know what I mean? Like there's all that like, well, this and that. Like, no, I want to beat you.
It's not a real win. It's not a real win.
Not a real win. I want to beat you fully healthy, toe to toe, like game on the line, game 7 with like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to win, because you're just like breaking your ankle left and right. So I very much want everyone to succeed. I want all community members from all projects to be in the money and to be making money. Like, I really, really want that. But I want to be the number one, and I want to be at the top of the totem pole. And, that's what drives me specifically.
Luca, has there been any teams and brands outside of Web3 that you think you guys have put on notice between the past, let's say, 24 months?
I think just a majority of traditional IP brands. You'd be surprised, but I have a lot of people deep in the IP and industry being like, dude, thanks for the short form strategy. We're starting to take it seriously. We're starting to take this, we're looking at exploring NFTs and those digital integrations. Like, don't be surprised that I think just as much as we set the playbook, in Web3, I think we're setting elements of a playbook for a lot of Web2 companies.
And do you see them as competition, the ones that are using your playbook for shorts outside of the industry?
No, because the game that I'm focused on winning right now is the NFT game. Like, I really desperately just want to win the NFT game, because then I fulfilled my promise to the people who got me here. The people who got me here are people like you, Andrew, right? And I made you guys a promise, right? And the promise was we're going to be number one. And like, I don't want to be number one. I want to hold number one, and I want to do that for a long period of time, if not forever. And that is like my goal above all else. I'm actually like way more in the weeds on the Web3 crypto side than I am on the traditional brand side. I've honestly handed off the keys to that to Peter. I'm like, yo, Peter, you're way more suited for this. And in reality, actually, my thought process behind the brand that is Pudgy Penguins does compromise the long-term integrity of it, because I'm very headline oriented. I'm very like, let me shake up crypto. Let me shake up NFTs. That's what I care about, right? Like, that's where my mind is. And sometimes it's not always the best interest for the integrity and the long-term growth and success of the Pudgy Penguin brand. So I've just thrown that all off to Peter. I'm like, look, Peter, at the end of the day, like, long-term success of a globally recognized IP and headlines are not synergistic, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, like, you care about this penguin he cares about the creative integrity and longevity of the penguin in a way that I definitely do, but I will always pick the NFT success over that. And so I have no position to be making decisions on that. And I've recognized that because, one is short-term success for long-term failure. And like, I've now understood that and just kind of put him in the position where it's like, dude, you run the Pudgy Penguin brand. You're the best suited for it. Let me think how we get money through the door, how we put fuel to the fire, how we market better, how we get eyeballs, and how we get the NFT to win.
I think you guys have won already in the NFT space, but I think winning is a metric. You can't just say, okay, we won. It's now how much can you win? And I'll ask you, how much do you think you guys have won, and how much do you want to win?
We've gotten to about, I think, 15% of where we need to be.
Okay.
We have another 85%.
Okay. And the next thing I'll ask you is, Luca, what's the status on the Overpass IP? How's that going?
Yeah, Overpass, it'll all make sense in about 6 weeks, but we want to make Overpass a protocol and make that a little more exciting than what I think it currently is, and give a little bit more value to holders. And that's we're just thinking about it in that light before we launch it.
Last thing, Luca. What can the community do right now when this airs, hopefully sooner than later? What can we do right now to support you guys at scale?
Like, retweet, bookmark, quote, retweet, comment, rock the PFP, not just on Twitter, any social that you can, Discord, Telegram. You'd be surprised, but like, rocking the PFP is the best thing you can do as a community member. Like, to be frank, if you're not rocking the PFP, I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, you got to rock the PFP somewhere. And I think that's just like really, really important. Like, if you care about the success and you want to help bolster the success, which at the end of the day, like, this is not just like, Luca, go do all the work. And I think Penguins have been like very conscious of this. Like, we all have to help each other. Like, your success is really important to me, Andrew, because the more that you succeed, the more that you proliferate, like, it is an ecosystem and a community for a reason. And this idea that like me by myself is going to take us to the promised land is like a total misrepresentation. If anyone has that perspective, you probably shouldn't be here. Right? Like, just to be honest, like, if you think this is just like you kick back and do absolutely nothing, like, we are as strong as our weakest link, and our weakest link is a member in the community, right? Or a member on the team. Like, we have to be in lockstep and moving in a huddle. And that's not to say like, I'm not asking for money or for you to buy our products or you go above and beyond and spend, an hour of your day trying to build a Pudgy Penguin product. Like, wearing the PFP is free. Liking and commenting is free, and it's easy, and it takes about 30 seconds of your time every single day. And that 30 seconds, if every member of the community contributes that 30 seconds to a minute every single day, I think compounds on top of what we're doing, puts us in the perfect position to be exactly where I know every Pudgy Penguin holder wants to be.
Luca, I appreciate your time. Last thing, what is one thing you haven't said right now that you want the community to know? Alpha, important date, something you're excited about personally within the next, let's say, 6 months.
June 27th.
Okay. Okay. I'm not even gonna ask why. I'm not even gonna ask why.
No,
I won't ask why. Luca, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on. Hope you guys enjoyed us. We'll see you guys next time. Take care, everybody.
What's up, dude?
Peter, what's going on? Holy shit, dude. We're gonna fucking air this. I can air this with you on it too. Holy fuck.
What are my questions, man?
Ask
me my question.
Peter, you've been good?
I'll be great. Oh, you get this charger.